What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Crush City Territory. I'm Chandler Rome, joined by Tyler Stafford and a very special guest, one of the very many new Astros pitchers acquired this offseason, Mike Burrows. Lucky enough to have him join us from Connecticut, where it is very cold. Not as cold as it is, nothing you'll experience here in Houston, as it's 70 degrees on this January day. Mike, how are you doing? What have the last few weeks been like as this kind of whirlwind has come to an end and you've been able to settle down a little bit and know what the future holds for you?
Yeah, definitely a whirlwind of a day, but holidays rolled around, got time with family, and yeah, we're just kind of here now. So getting ready for spring training, got a month left.
There you go. What does it look like when a trade goes through? I mean, what all is going through your head? Who's calling you? What does that look like for that first hour after you find out?
Yeah, I found out through fantasy football group chat with a bunch of guys. So it was just kind of one of those, a little bit of a shock. Don't know if it's true. You're looking at Twitter, and then agent calls, says sources are confirming it's true, and then you go through the whole medical review time period before you officially get called that it's done.
So your fantasy football group chat is just going off of, hey, you got traded?
Yeah, pretty much. It was just kind of like, Burrows to Houston question mark, and yeah, that was. I mean, it was such a random thing. I heard murmurs through winter meetings, but those kind of settled down. All I'm thinking about is Christmas, getting Christmas shopping done, and randomly get a text like that. It's just kind of like the start of my day, pretty much.
That's the first successful trade that I've seen go through in a fantasy football group chat. I can't get anybody to trade with me in my league, so congrats on that.
Thanks. Yeah.
Is it a baseball fantasy league, or is it kind of a guys from home fantasy league?
It was guys that are in my agency.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they really had a kind of vested interest in what was going on, just knowing that they've probably been through it too. I'm sure there's some guys in that group that had been traded too. Did you ask them for advice at all, or was it just kind of more, you need to figure out if this is true first and foremost?
No advice. I mean, it's the same game, just a new team. So, I mean, I'm sure if I have questions, I got a lot of guys I could reach out to, but I think if I got questions, I'd probably just reach out to the new organization.
There you go.
Speaking of that, since like the holidays have settled down and everything, how many people have you reached out to with the Astros? Who has reached out to you, and kind of what have been your early impressions of what you've heard from either the pitching guys, either from maybe some of your new teammates, whether you've talked to Joe, kind of what have you heard from the Astros organization?
Yeah. Talked to Dana, Joe, Ethan, Josh. As far as Josh and Ethan, just kind of the pitching side, talking about where I'm at, what I've been doing, stuff like that. Dana and Joe, it's like just excited to have me, and ready to go pitch in October. So that's kind of been where the conversations were, and just kind of just exciting conversations, stuff that you want to hear, stuff that gets you going, gets you ready for 2026.
You grew up in the Connecticut area. You were committed to Yukon out of high school, correct?
Yeah.
Did you grow up a Yukon fan? Was that a baseball team that you followed a lot?
So I grew up watching Springer play at Yukon.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, during those times. So those were very exciting years for the baseball program. I grew up a Yukon basketball fan. So yeah, I mean, I was definitely a Yukon fan. I loved the conference that they were in at the time. Everything was south except for our home games. So when I was home and it was cold, I was close to home, close enough where people could come watch. And then whenever we were not there, we're south.
What was Springer like in college out there, just ripping dingers out there? What'd that look like?
Yeah, no, it was impressive. They had a really good team. I think Barnes was on that team. Nick Ahmed. They had some dudes on that team. Yeah, it was a really good team. So it was fun to watch, and yeah, it was what made me kind of want to go there. It was years after that I committed. So yeah.
Do you have a core Yukon basketball memory from your childhood? And obviously they've been good forever, so I imagine you had to see some pretty iconic things as a Yukon basketball fan.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wasn't like a diehard. I went to some games, but Kemba's run with Yukon was like probably the most exciting for me. That's some of the stuff that I remember most. And then Shabazz coming in shortly after that and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of exciting moments. I love that they just went back to back. Yeah, just kind of more so like that's when I started really liking Yukon, or that's what drew me to Yukon was the basketball program.
I covered. I went to Texas A&M and worked at the newspaper there, and I covered the women's basketball team. And every year, for every women's basketball team at the time, it was just how long will the season last until you have to play the Yukon ladies. And so that was a lot of fun as well. So you got a lot of dominance over there.
Yeah.
So let's go through a little bit of kind of how your professional career has evolved a little bit. You had TJ 23, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So last year was maybe your first like fully healthy year coming back off of Tommy John. How'd you feel last year, and how do you feel like that? Everyone kind of looks at Tommy John. They put the 12 to 14 to 16 month timeline on it. And then I think there's this expectation, I don't know if it's from fans, I don't know if it's just from people that are conditioned to seeing 12 to 16 months. And then they just expect pitchers after that time frame to be rearing back just as they were pre-surgery. When I think we've all come to realize that that's not the case. You probably need, another 8 to 10 months of just throwing, of getting back into the routine before you really feel like yourself. Did you have that? Is that kind of how it went for you, and kind of how was last season kind of being in that year out removed from TJ? How was that for you?
Yeah, no, it's true. There's definitely a long period of time where you're back, but you don't feel like yourself. So I think one of the harder parts was like coming off of TJ and going right into the second half of a season, and just trying to figure it out and get back into the swing of everything, because you felt so far removed for so long, and then you're just kind of back in it so quick. And then I mean I really didn't feel like myself again until probably June of last year, and then things started to really kind of roll, and started to get some stuff back mechanically, started to feel like just normal again. Like there was no stiffening in that area anymore. It was just started to loosen up again. You started to really feel like yourself. And I think there's a lot of guys that feel that way, that kind of go through that second half of TJ, because it's such a long point to get back, but there's more that comes after that, just to get back to a normal state of where you were before.
I think Astros fans watched you get back to normal. Your third start back. I think that was the game that you kind of figured it out. 5 1/3, no runs, 6 strikeouts. Is that when you were starting to feel kind of back to yourself?
Yeah, I started to feel better around that time, and that it took me 2 starts prior to get to that. I had to figure some things out in those first couple of starts. I kind of, first one, maybe a little unlucky. Second one just kind of got caved in. So it was like, I got to figure it out. And I ended up figuring out that third one against the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you never know.
Go ahead, Chandler.
Yeah, I was about to say, you never know in this game with like butterfly effect, and you never know if like they were watching you that start and just like, oh man, like this kid, like he's got something. Like we maybe need to keep our eyes on him as a trade target, as somebody that we'd want to maybe ask about after the season. So it's always funny to know how those things work. If whether you pitching well against the Astros in front of, Dana was on that road trip, I remember. You pitching well in front of all those guys, and he was like, oh, like let's keep our eye on him.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
I mean, the Astros also missed the playoffs by 1 game, so I think we can blame you personally for the Astros missing that.
So last year, your first you debuted in 24 through 3 innings in the big leagues. But so last year, for all intents and purposes, was your first almost full year in the big leagues, through about 90, 95 innings. What was the biggest thing you took away from having as close to a full season as you've had in the big leagues, just the level of competition, the adjustments that are made day in and day out from start to start? I guess what were some of the biggest things you took away from last year as your first real taste of big league life?
Yeah. Bad ones come. You just need to pile up the good ones. There were definitely speed bumps. There were things that, happened throughout it, but it was just kind of like staying level headed, moving through it, continuing, figuring out why it went wrong. And realizing that pitchability was my best friend. Pitching off my fastball, make sure the fastball is being located. Like, it's really hard to walk into a start and just be like, this isn't here. So you need to have it. You need to have everything when you go out there, regardless of how you feel. So figuring out different ways to lock in certain things, because there's some days where something doesn't feel right, but what's my way of getting to a better spot with that pitch or whatever it may be. The amount of deception that plays into pitching, as well as metrics and even just pitching. There's just a lot that goes into it, more than most people would think. So just making my way through the speed bumps and figuring out, why the good ones were good and why the bad ones were bad.
Looks like you added the sinker in July. Is that a pitch that you'd always had, or did you learn that last year?
I threw everything in high school, and then when I got into pro ball, I did the same thing. COVID hit, and I just decided, let's work backwards. Let's make a couple pitches really, really good. Ran with a four seam with ride and a curveball, and just kept adding from there year to year. And now we're back to adding the two seam back again, because I just think as a starter, I think most guys are going towards the two fastball approach, and I figured why not try it. So I actually threw it against Arizona just as let's just throw it. Let's go. Let's use it in a game. What better opportunity than in game? So worked on it a little bit up to that point, but just decided to throw it. What's the worst that could happen? It gets hit. Okay. It's just, using in game, I think was the best thing for me, and just saying, whatever, I don't need an off season for it.
6 scoreless innings of 3 hit ball against the D-backs when you threw it. So I guess it worked out pretty good. You will have a full off season to work on it this time around, because I'm sure you saw, and I'm sure Dana and Joe and Ethan and Josh have maybe told you that, Dana told us on the media Zoom call that they do want to increase your two-seamer usage. He brought up Hunter Brown as somebody that they have done this with. Obviously, it worked very well for him, as we have seen the last year and a half. When you hear that, is that something that now going into catch play, going into, as you start ramping up before you get to West Palm Beach, do you make a more concentrated effort to throw the sinker more? Or is it just you're going to kind of do what you normally do and then get to camp and then maybe let the Astros guys kind of maybe give you a more detailed account of kind of how they want you to do this?
A little bit of both. So, I'm throwing it the way I've been throwing it for, 6 months, 7 months now. So I'm going to continue to throw it that way. But if there's tweaks that need to be made during spring, maybe to the grip, or maybe just a cue, or a different type of feel for it, I think it's going to be more minor adjustments than anything, a major reworking of it. So, continue to throw it the way I do and let them make a slight adjustment on it, maybe come spring.
Have you always had the pitchability that you have with the changeup? Because I feel like a lot of times that's kind of the last pitch for pitchers to really figure out. It's a really tough pitch to throw. You throw it a ton and have a lot of success with it. What, walk us through just that pitch. What's the grip you're rolling with? Why does it work so well for you?
Yeah, it's a Vulcan change. Back in 21, I was just throwing fastball, curveball, and I was doing well. I didn't feel like I needed to throw another pitch, but obviously come higher levels, you're gonna need more pitches, unless I went the reliever route. But I wanted to be a starter, so changeup was the first thing I tried to add back. But I was just riding it. I was throwing it like just a slow fastball. So the Vulcan helped me kill spin and kill vert, and then just kind of ran with it from there. Just maybe slight adjustments, but ever since then, just throwing it both sides of the plate, trying to throw it to both hitters, trying to, just throw it in awkward situations, 3-2 counts, runners on base, stuff like that.
You don't see a ton of right on right changeups unless it's a really, really good changeup. I guess when in your mind did you get the confidence to be like, you know what, this doesn't just need to be a pitch against lefties. Like I can go right on right. Like I feel enough confidence in this pitch that I can throw it in any count against any hitter, no matter what side of the plate they're on.
Yeah, I think it's just throwing it to righties. I think probably credit to my catchers and pitching coaches back then, just making me throw it in those situations against righties and becoming comfortable with it. Once I realized like I can get swing and miss on both sides with it, that becomes a lot more of a weapon rather than it being an exclusive lefty pitch or something like that.
You struck out 97 guys last year. Do you know how many you got on the changeup?
Probably half.
50. Yeah.
Yeah.
50 strikeouts on the changeup. I mean, that's a good pitch for sure.
We were just talking about, implementing more of the two seam, implementing more of the sinker. I'm sure as you looked at the results against your four seamer last year, probably not what you envisioned. That's probably a pitch that it's probably some results you want a little bit better against the four seamer. How much do you think introducing the two seam can help that? Just giving guys they're not selling out for the riding fastball, like giving guys a different look. How much do you think that can make those two things can go hand in hand of maybe you adding the sinker and then the four seamer getting some better results for you?
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the bigger reasons to add it, was because the four seam was just kind of, it was getting smoked more times than not from how it felt to me. It's the big leagues. Like these guys can hit, they're really good players. So I think just adding that second shape with the fastball really helped them, kind of be a little off balance going into an at-bat rather than selling out to a heater and maybe a certain count, or seeing that kind of spin and selling out to it. And so, I think it definitely helps. Definitely with the righties too. I think my righty splits have always been a little worse. That's why I added the slider. That's why I'm now adding the two seams to neutralize righties. Curveball changeup's always been good to lefties for the most part. So
it really does sound like we're retelling the Hunter Brown story from 2 years ago, because this was everything that was plaguing Hunter, right? Like just righties were killing him. The four seamer was not performing as it should, and the off speed stuff was actually pretty good. And all it took was just adding that one pitch, and now he's kind of at the top of the sport. What, I guess from afar, I don't know how much you've gotten to watch him, but just what is it? If you have gotten to watch him a little bit, what has it been like to maybe watch his resurgence, and how do you feel about now being on his team, pitching behind him in a rotation?
Yeah, no, it's definitely exciting. To your point, like understanding that there's similarities. I think there's a lot of things that I could learn just by talking to him. So, I'm definitely excited to be in the same rotation as him, and just kind of see what worked for him, what made him excel, especially last year. But it's definitely a great opportunity to be with a guy like that.
I remember in a psychology class I took in college, they went over the 3 most stressful things that can happen in life, and it was like, relationship change, getting married, changing jobs, and moving. And I feel like you're just hitting them all in like in a month. How are you managing all of these things all at once? It's a big year for you.
Yeah, no, it's a big year. Getting married, I don't feel like really changed much with me and my now wife, but it's just a blessing, really. It's something that, we talked about the trade and stuff, and, just going over like God puts you in uncomfortable scenarios for a reason at times. So it's like, it's a bit uncomfortable because I have to relearn a whole new organization. I have to get to meet new guys, but that's also a blessing in itself, to meet new guys and start new and fresh with a new organization, because everything happens for a reason. So I just got to believe in that.
I could have probably looked this up beforehand, and I probably should have. But have you played with anyone that's in the Astros system, or was it in the big league within the big leagues with them last year?
I don't think so.
Oh, so you're coming in like completely brand new.
Yeah, right.
Is that daunting for you? Or do you like it that way?
No, it's nothing to me. Maybe when I was younger, it'd be a little more daunting, but I've kind of found who I am by now, 26, and a little more comfortable with where I'm at in my career, and understanding who I am, and nothing, like I'm not going to change who I am. I'm going to walk in and meet everybody, and that's going to be that, and figure out who everybody is, figure out how everything's operating there, and it shouldn't take too long.
I feel obligated to ask you this from an Astros perspective because we can tie these two things in pretty seamlessly. But Brent Strom was on staff in Pittsburgh last season. Obviously, Stromy's work in Houston is still resonating. Josh Miller is one of his proteges. Bill Murphy, the new pitching coach in Pittsburgh, one of Stromy's proteges as well. What was it like working with Stromy? He's a hoot, man. I love talking to him. I love being around Stromy. What was it like with him, and maybe what some lessons you learned from working with Brent Strom?
Yeah, no, Stromy's great. Stromy helped me a lot with my delivery. I was stepping a lot towards a left-handed hitter early on in the year during spring training, and he was like very adamant. He's like, dude, you need to step in line, like, and everything's going to fix itself. You need to maybe even step a little crossfire, and it's going to fix itself. And it took me a few months, but we eventually got there, and, just working with him, talking to him, going over video, just looking at stuff. But he was great. I love Stromy. Stromy's a little more old school than a lot of these guys now, but that it's still timeless stuff, and he helped me a lot with my throw, and got me where I needed to be.
Now, obviously, every team goes into every season with expectations of success. Everybody starts 0-0, and you've got the season in front of you. But I would imagine there's a little difference between, a Pirates team that's been rebuilding versus an Astros team that now has missed the playoffs for the first time in about a decade. But is there any difference in mentality of being on a team that has expectations of, we expect to be in the playoffs, not just a hope to be there? Do you see yourself having any sort of difference in how you approach the game, or how you approach, being on a team with those expectations?
I think, if you talk to the guys in Pittsburgh, like, we expected to win, and like that's what you go out there to do. So it's just a matter of, okay, the results didn't happen, but the mindset was still there, and I don't think anything like that will change. It's definitely it's different in maybe a fan base talking about their team or looking at their team like, Houston's going to expect to make the playoffs. Fan base wise, and Pittsburgh might just be hopeful or something like that. But as far as the players go, we expected to win. We wanted to win. We were there to win. So, those results just didn't shake out. But I think the mindset's the same for a lot of players, regardless of, looking at your record. I don't think anybody's going out there just like, oh, man, we're not going to win. But, I don't think anything for me is going to change. Yeah.
To put a bow on your Pittsburgh days, for those of us not blessed to have the sort of seat that you had to watch Paul Skenes every fifth day, can you just describe what it's like to watch him from the best seat in the house do what he does every fifth day?
Yeah, it's special. I think what's better is the 4 days leading up to it, getting to see who he is before he gets to that fifth day. And everybody sees him on his fifth day, but those 4 days leading up, like, he works very, very hard. He's very routine based, and there's nothing that shakes his routine. So it's like, that's how you get to that fifth day. That's how you dominate, is making sure that you're hitting every step you need to get to that fifth day. But watching him pitch, it's special. He's really good.
That's the understatement of the century.
Mm-hmm.
As to kind of close it out here, Mike, we told you we'd keep you for about 20 minutes and we're already over time. But to close it out a little bit, just as you do get ready to go to West Palm Beach and get to spring training, I guess, what excites you the most about joining this Astros organization, joining the team that, as Tyler said, is has a ton of expectations on it every year, believes it is a championship contender every time it gets to West Palm Beach. What excites you the most about this opportunity, and what would you want fans to maybe know about you if this is the first time they're hearing your voice, seeing your face? What would you like them to know about what you're going to bring to this organization when you report in February?
Yeah, I hope I just want to meet their expectations. I want to win with this team, and I'm just excited to be a part of it. And go out there every fifth day and help a team win.
I have a very important question, and it is what is the beard routine? Because I have watched the Astros for a long time, and you're already on the Mount Rushmore up there with Keuchel on Astros beards. What is going on?
Yeah, there really isn't. I'm trying to grow it out right now. I'm trying to get a little higher line, but I got a haircut tomorrow. You guys missed me, or you guys got me a day before I get this thing cut. I'm kind of shaggy right now, but there's nothing crazy to it. It's just like getting rid of loose hairs and keeping it looking maintained.
Look, I've also got the red going, but I can only handle this. It does not look nearly as good if I grow it out. So you got a lot to uphold over here for sure in the beard
got
category.
Expectations there.
Yeah.
You're already on a Mount Rushmore of the Astros, so no pressure.
Yeah,
it's you, Dallas Keuchel, and Evan Gattis.
I was going to say Gattis too. That's the third one I could think of.
On a Mount Rushmore of beards. Mike, this was fun. We really appreciate you taking some time in the off season to introduce yourself to the fan base, to talk to us, and kind of break down what has been a hectic couple of months for you. Hopefully January is a lot calmer. Hopefully you get to settle down a little bit before getting to West Palm Beach in February. So thank you. This was a lot of fun. For everyone listening, if you'd like to, Mike, are you on X, Instagram? Want to plug your handle so the fans can follow you at all?
I'm on Instagram, Mike Burrows with a 0 as the O.
Mike Burrows with a 0 as the O on IG. You can follow me on X at Chandler_Rome. You can follow Tyler at Tyler C. Stafford. Please, as always, rate and review us on Apple and Spotify. Please like this video if you're watching it on YouTube. It really, really helps our algorithm. So please just hit the like button on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get notified anytime we post a new podcast or anytime we go live. Again, Mike, this was great. We really appreciate you taking some time in the offseason to join us, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.
Bye.